Can you just tell us a little bit about, the
Sure.
climate of culture of recovery there? And you were explaining to me that how the hijab is an issue in the virtual meetings with screen sharing and so forth. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Mahbub and I'm an addict. I am from Tehran, Iran. It's such a pleasure and honor to be here among you all women and, of course, our men. Um, this is so glad for me to just be a part of this. I have been clean since 1st of January of 2006. And the NA actually came to Iran around 25 or 26 years ago, 1993, 1992. There's some discussion about it between the old members. But anyhow, I have been quite lucky that when I just came to NA, it was already a big society of NA in Iran. And there were lots of meetings and the choice of, I had lots of choices in my own city. Of course, I am the capital of Iran. Tehran is quite a big city with around 8 million people population. And there are also other big cities in Iran that they also already had that NA meetings for women and men, as well as the mixed one. Therefore, I can say that I didn't have any issue of finding a meeting when I just came to NA. But the problem usually for me was the matter of somehow being a woman in Iran and also being an addict is quite taboo. Actually, even smoking cigarettes and such a things in Islamic countries is not something that you like to see from women. And that is what I had also during whole my addiction time until I got clean. And I wanted to avoid going to the meetings because I was afraid that I will be recognized by some relatives or somebody, because during my whole active addiction that lasted around 15 years, I tried to just be so invisible. I mean, I used to study, I used to go to work, and I was a good girl of my parents. Therefore, yeah, for all those social labels, I can say that I carried all of them. That's why that when I just got clean, I didn't just want to show up in the meetings, but I started with online meetings. That is so interesting because nowadays, again, it's a reputation for me. I started with it, and around 40 days or something, I went onto online meetings. And then there were some guys from other countries, and they told me that, why you don't go to the actual meetings? And I said that, no, I am afraid that I will be recognized. And they said, it's not a bad place, you know. If even somebody sees you over there, it's okay. And then I started my meeting. It was quite a big meeting, the first one that I entered. A lot of women were there. Thanks God, all beautiful and all so dressed up. And I said, oh my God, how is it possible that all of them have been addicts, you know? Because I was an addict, and it was my own angle of view that I just looked at other women and I couldn't believe that they have been addicts. And how can I just expect my parents to not think about an addict woman as something else? Then, yeah, thanks God, it was quite a journey for me. And I had been during these all years, I had been mostly attending the women meeting. I don't like to go to the mixed meeting actually, and I just tell other girls also come to the women meeting. We are now over 10,000 women members in NA in Iran, and before this crisis happened, it was around 430 meetings per week that we had it in the whole country. And nowadays, of course, since this crisis started, we also started our online meetings one by one, first between the sponsors and sponsees in a very, for example, in WhatsApp or on Skype. And as far as I don't want to just go so much to details, I have just listed some challenges of these online meetings, Viviana, to just to be to the point. The first matter was the buying the account of Zoom. Actually, we are under the sanction, economic sanction. Therefore, we cannot buy the credits for the Zoom so easily because there is no banking transaction and such a things. We used to use free version of Zoom that after 40 minutes you will be kicked out, then you have to return again. Therefore, it was not so practical for us. That's why we started with the Skype, but we noticed that the security on Skype is not so well. It means that, yeah, you cannot control the camera and also the sharings and such a thing, just like Zoom. Therefore, we thought we should do something for women. And then we came to the idea that we can ask some of the members who already have immigrated from Iran to Europe or some neighborhood country to buy the credit for us. And that is something that is happening quite recently, around 10 days ago. And we already have our, somehow the only women on Zoom, and that's why that we can control the security so well in it. For the money of it, we are now trying to just get to follow our seventh tradition by collecting some money. We put some treasurer in our group, therefore everyone can put the money in that treasurer, and we send it to the person who has bought this account for us, one of the relatives of her, and therefore they can transfer the money so much more easier. This is the first thing that we just solved about it. About the hijab, of course, it's mandatory in my country. It's Islamic country, therefore everyone should just go out with some, it's not so fixed or so Islamic because it is mandatory, therefore people just have to follow it. It would be a
Yeah, I was able to get a couple of the pictures, so maybe you could let me just do my screen sharing. Hold on. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like is this a convention here, or this is just the women's section?
Actually, yes, this is the women's section. Actually, it's held in the mixed meeting, and this is how women are just showing up in the society. The right one is me and my sponsees in the meeting. It was the anniversary of her 8th anniversary. This is how we just show up in the meetings. But in the society, it doesn't, I mean, of course, in the meetings also, it cannot be so black or something. But this is the format that usually we follow up because usually our meetings are held in municipality buildings or some organizations that are also governmental. Therefore, we try to not to make any problem to get the license for the meetings, actually, you know.
Right. So I remember you explaining to me in the meetings, even on the screen, the women have to comply with a certain level of modesty just in case government come in and check.
Yes.
And then you also mentioned to me that many of the meetings are held in government buildings, the face-to-face meetings,
Yes,
so that
right.
there's actually a real level of checking and surveillance that women don't experience in this country or in other places. And then I
Right.
also wanted you to just, before we have to move on, can you talk a little bit about women in service and the public relations issues that happen there, because Iran has been in NA for a long period of time, and so just understanding how women and their service positions have evolved?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we are also fortunate in that level as well because since some years ago that I, for example, came in NA also, I found a lot of women involved in the service, and we really had been lucky for that as well. And nowadays, for example, the person in charge of our committee in PR in my area is a woman. And before that, also the committee of literature, and before that, the committee of the workshops also all are managed by women here, and they are quite strong and good in their services. Of course, they have some challenges. I don't say that there is no challenge because anyhow, working with men and especially going to the organizations and because they are Islamic and this is the country that it's men oriented anyhow. That's why that they always have to be accompanied by some men, otherwise maybe they are not be taken so serious, you know. And this is the problem that exists since, I don't know, 40 years or such a thing. Yeah, these are the things that I know that they are facing because I have talked to many of them. But I think that we are quite well in adapting ourselves with these issues, and we try to act so well and nice in NA. Therefore, there would be a good reputation of women in recovery. And
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting the time sign.
yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
I'm
It's
getting the
okay.
time
I'm
sign
done
to
also.
move on. But you know what?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Welcome.
providing those images. So
Thank you very much.
so Ozzy also called me and told me she was just in an accident, a car accident. I don't know if she was able to come on, but she actually had an accident. I'm not sure if she's on here, but
Hold on.
uh,
She's here.
who's up next? Okay,
Got it. Aziz, go ahead. You got
Hello,
about 5 minutes,
everyone.
maybe 10 minutes.
Okay, all right. Well, hello everyone. I'm Ozzy. I'm from Iran. Mahbouba kind of covered everything really about the challenges in Iran. But as you know, we had the, I want to just mention a little about Motion 9, that creating new IPs and resources for women in recovery. And I'm sorry, I have to disconnect my video.
okay.
And as she mentioned, we of course this is something we talked, Rowena, last time. It's not about Iran. It's something that women have these challenges all over the world. So we're trying to prepare IPs specifically for women, so we can hand them maybe because especially I point these challenges in Iran, like because of the culture, women don't want their families or their neighborhood find out about their I'm sorry, about their problems. So therefore, they're ashamed. They're kind of ashamed to mention, even when they're in jail, they don't participate in meetings. So it's good to have something that answers all their questions, and we can hand them before they even know anything about NA, so they can be. I know there is a lot of questions that women have before they join NA. The other thing I wanted to mention about the services in NA, that is one of the biggest challenges women have in Iran. I don't know whether that's the same everywhere else. One of the big issues is about, uh, especially in Iran, because of the cultural limitations and men very and kind of being prejudiced. Women have a lot of limitation, and when they go into services, Mahbube pointed at this a little bit well. They have a lot of challenges, of course. not even with the government, but mostly with NA members, with men members, and they create a lot of problems for them. And they have, from family side, they have limitations. They can, they really are not comfortable. If I'm a woman, as a woman, I get a lot of challenges men create, and they don't want women to have services a lot of the time, most of the time, not all the time. And the other thing I wanted to, that is one of the things that we're trying to find out, to work on. And I'm sorry, I wasn't literally prepared for this. And
Yeah, well, you know what, here, I'm just going to sum it up before we move on, because for those people that are not aware, the motion in the car for the women's IP comes
Right.
comes from this section, and this is something you wanted to emphasize. And then I also think when we kind of conclude the conversation, what will be helpful is that the women that are collaborating from all over the world will be able to have a broader impact working together in a network, than just by themselves, separate and marginalized in the separate countries. So I know that there's other women that are going to be up speaking next, and at the conclusion of this workshop, we're going to talk a little bit about maybe a couple of solutions that we could bring forward after this. So thank you so much,
Great.
Ozzy, for coming on.
Thank you, dear.